See, what is this need for love in a human being? You must understand, a human being constantly, a human being is longing to be something more than what they are right now. If this finds a simple, basic physical expression, we call this sexuality. Sexuality means just this, physically you're trying to make something which is not you a part of yourself. For a few moments you may succeed. If you try this mentally, it gets labeled as greed, conquest, or maybe simply shopping. Some people go for conquest with swords and guns, some people go with checkbooks and cash, credit cards. The thing is, you want to include something which is not a part of you as yourself, that is the whole effort. Whether you want money or wealth or you want to occupy a nation, what is it? Something that is not you, you want to make it yours. Yours is an effort to make it a part of yourself. If it happens emotionally, on the emotional level if you try this, we call this a love affair. You're trying to make somebody who is not a part of you, a part of yourself emotionally. This is a love affair. If you do it consciously, we call this yoga. Yoga means union. So all these efforts are fine, everything has its own beauty but has its own limitations. When you understand the limitations of all the other methods, nothing right or wrong about it, it is just that it will work briefly, it will not work for always. When you realize that, you consciously try to include. When you consciously become an inclusive process, if you sit here, if you experience everything as yourself, then we say you're a yogi, okay? See, because you're looking at love as something that comes to you or you yield to the process of love only because you appreciate a particular quality, a shape of somebody's nose or the shape of their mind or their thought or their emotion or the way they speak or the way they do things or the way they relate to you, something, okay? There are many things. It is based on something that is acceptable to you. If they do something that is not acceptable to you, love crumbles.
Yes.
Now what I'm saying is, I want you to look at this, whether love happens to you or hate happens to you, anger happens to you, misery happens to you, joy happens to you, it only happens within you, isn't it? People say love is in the air. No, because you're feeling very pleasant in your emotions, suddenly air feels vibrant, it always been, you missed it all your life, now you're beginning to feel it. All right? So, whatever human experience, love or hate, whatever, happens only within you. What I'm saying is, at least what happens within you must happen by your choice. Consciously you must be able to make it happen. If you are able to… if your experience of what is happening within you is happening by choice, what is the problem? It only happens within you. Love is not a relationship. A relationship is a different thing. Love is a certain sweetness of your emotion. Whether you look at a tree or a dog or a man or a woman or a child or just at the sky, why can't you look at it lovingly? Because it's not about loving the sky, it's about the sweetness of your emotion. If your emotions are sweet, whatever you look at it in a certain way. Right now you have nasty emotions, whatever you look at it in a different way. So you have always associated love with somebody. No, this is not about somebody. Love is not something that you do, it is something that you can become. If you're willing, you can become love, you can make your emotion into a very sweet space. If you make your body very pleasant, it becomes pleasure. If you sit here, it can be great pleasure just sitting here and breathing. This is what we're teaching people. If you sit… I will show you millions of people, if they close their eyes, tears of ecstasy will just drip. Nothing, simply close your eyes. Ecstatic they are, bursting every cell in their body. Because body has become so pleasant. If your mind becomes pleasant, we say this is joy. If your emotions become pleasant, we say this is love. If your very life energies become pleasant, We say this is blissfulness, this is ecstasy. If your surroundings become pleasant, we call that success. Now you're calling your success with somebody as love, that's a mistake. You have a success story with somebody, that is, you have created pleasantness in the atmosphere between you and let's say 5–10 people around you. You're calling that love. No, that is actually success, because that needs lots of management.
I love you. People use these three words so casually and so often as if they know what the word love really means. And I'm telling you that if they come to know the true meaning of the word love, then they would stop using these words. Because then they will know that what they are saying is untrue. Because then they will know that they don't at all mean what they are saying. Today in this talk, I'm going to explain the word love, what it actually means. Love is the essence of who you are. Yes, love is the very essence of who you really are. Remember, I'm not talking about your body. I'm not talking about your mind, because this body-mind complex is not who you really are. What you really are exists beyond your body, beyond your mind. I'm talking about your divine conscious nature. That is who you are in your essence. And love is another name for your real nature. Yes, love is the word that defines and that describes your true nature in the best possible way. If I am asked to use one word to describe your true nature, I would use the word love. But I don't use this word, the reason being, just like the word God, it has been misinterpreted down the ages. People, without knowing its true meaning, use it as if they know what it really means. When they use this word, what they mean is that you are fulfilling their expectation that they have of you and they are appreciating it. But the moment you stop meeting their expectations, that love will disappear into thin air. This is not love. This is just a business transaction. True love exists forever because it comes from the real, eternal you. And so it doesn't depend on what the other person does or says to you. Whatever he or she does or says cannot change that love. It is the very essence of who you are. So what it basically means is that you cannot love anyone truly unless you know your true nature. You cannot love anyone truly unless you know who you really are beyond this body-mind complex. So if you really want to love truly, then discover that eternal love that exists within you as you. When true love happens, that destroys all attachments. Because generally what people call love is nothing but attachment. In attachment, you use the other person to fulfill your selfish motives. But in true love, you allow the person to be. You don't try to control them. You don't try to possess them. You accept them for what they are. When you truly love a person, you accept him or her exactly as he or she is, without judgment, without expectation. You accept them for what they are, without wanting to change them. You see the perfection even in their imperfections. When you love the other person truly, You offer them your presence and not the defects of your personality. You keep the person aside and let your presence talk. That's when true communion happens. Your partner has some stress and she comes to you. What do you do then? If you love her truly, you will offer your presence to her. And how would you know whether you are offering your presence to her or not? When you offer your presence, you listen to her deeply. Deep listening is what will show whether you love her truly or not. People have really forgotten how to listen. I feel more than 80% problems of relationships will get solved if we learn to listen deeply. Healing happens when you listen deeply. Just try it. Just listen what the other person is saying without judgments, without labels, and see what happens. Generally, what happens is when the other person is saying something, a mental talk goes on in our minds, and real, true, authentic conversation doesn't happen. Recognize the power behind deep listening. It will change the way you look at the other person, and in this process, you yourself will go through a spiritual transformation. It's because deep listening is possible only when you are in touch with your divine conscious nature. True love is not a relationship between two people. True love is a state of being that exists within you. When you discover love within yourself, you then radiate love all around you. And through this, your relationship becomes more loving and more fulfilling. True love is not dependent on the other person. You don't need the other person to fulfill you. You don't need the other person to make you happy. You don't need the other person to complete you. Generally, this is the reason why people move into relationships. They want their partner to fulfill them, to make them happy, or to complete them. But in true love, you discover fulfillment, happiness, and perfection within yourself.